Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth. Thanks so much for stopping by. It's time for another Friday Flip, and today, since it's the beginning of July, we're going to do the One Book July tag. Now, before I launch into that, let me just do a really quick update on the journals I have used this year in 2020 so far. They've pretty much stayed consistently the same. Now, someone had asked me this earlier, and these journals that I share on this channel are the ones I use for morning pages or creative work. It is nothing that has to do with work, right? All of the work journals and notebooks are completely different, and I don't share those because I really can't share anything in those pages anyway. So for 2020, what I've done, what I've used for the first half of 2020, and I do not see this changing for the rest of this year either, is I've got this composition notebook, which is a basic composition grid notebook that I use for my morning pages. I have this traveler's notebook journal with the inserts, and what I am using this for is primarily as a way to take notes. So there's a notebook in the back that I take notes when I'm watching something, and I do a record of every day in a week's format. So this is the traveler's notebook, kind of a week at a page, and I have just switched into the second half of the year, the July to December. I just took out of my notebook yesterday the one for January to June. So when I finish this up, because I haven't added the photos, I will print them out, add them in, and do a flip of the weeks. But that's basically what my One Book July was for last year, was to use this journal as a way to keep track of a Bujo section, which I ended up scrapping fairly early on because I realized it just wasn't working for me, as well as the weeks. This was the One Book July challenge I used last year. Okay, so what's different this year is, so these two stay the same. There's no changing. I mean, once you have a system that works, for me, I find that there's no use messing with something that actually works. What I am doing differently is, last year, my art journals were all this regular standard Midori size, or the standard regular traveler's notebook size, which is this size here. And what I decided to do this year is actually go into a larger format. I kind of missed the real estate one gets when you're working with larger pieces of paper. So this is one of those DIY ones, and it's pretty much done. This went from January through the end of June, actually, the last day of June. And so when I get to wrapping up a couple of things in here, I think there's a couple of things I got to cover up and stuff, I will do a flip of this one, so stay tuned for that. So what's different for me about One Book July this year? Now, if you take a look online, you can see the challenges that they're using for 2020. But what I'm specifically doing is, instead of trying to go through one of these inserts every 6 months or so, I'm going to try and do it in a month. So on my channel, you can see how I make these. This is a fabric journal cover. I made it kind of traveler's notebook style, so that's what the journal looks like, and they're really easy to make. It's got a pocket in the back, and kind of the front looks like that. So on my channel, you can see how I make this. Very quick and simple. If you happen to have fabric of any kind, I happen to use fabric swatches from furniture stores, which work great, and they cost nothing, which is always a plus. So what I'm doing this month for One Book July is, just like these inserts, when I make an insert, I make several. These ones are essentially 9 by 12 inches of paper folded in half, and then everything else kind of adjusts accordingly. I decided to make it simpler on myself and just do an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded in half. So this is one insert, and this is another insert. So if you're used to the traveler's notebook system, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, please do a quick search on YouTube, and it'll make sense to you then. So these are the two inserts that I have already made and ready to go. So these covers are wallpaper samples. Again, if you take a look at my YouTube channel, you'll see how I go ahead and use these. Again, I get these for free from my wallpaper sample stores, or my wallpaper stores in town. So my plan is to try and see for July this year is if I can completely fill this insert, right? So I think it's got 94 pages, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines. So if I do about 3 pages a day, this should be filled. So that's what I am doing personally as my One Book July challenge, is to try and fill this particular insert. So people always ask me, what do your inserts look like before you fill them out? So in this particular case, there's watercolor paper, there's some cardstock, there's some music pages. In this particular insert, I also have some wallpaper samples kind of stitched in, some graph paper, right? So very simple. I tend to leave them fairly blank. Here's some scrapbook paper that I have in my stash, and I thought would look kind of fun in here. So that's kind of what this looks like. And there's the center, and the other half of it is just the exact same thing, just the other side of it. So that's my One Book July challenge for this year, is to see if I can actually fill that particular insert by July 31st. Stay tuned to see if that will actually happen or not. In the meantime, these will be the journals then that I use this month. It's going to be this traveler's notebook with the insert on the inside, this one with my weeks primarily and some note taking, and this one with my morning pages. Okay, so if you've got a video of the journals you've used to date for the year and are finding out that things are different or you're loving what you have and the system works, please let me know. I would love to go take a look at those. If you are participating in the One Book July challenge, either the official challenge or your own version, leave links for me as well so I can go take a look at it. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. In the meantime, have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.